Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got something incredibly important to unpack today, the 2020 Governance Regulations for Non-Deposit Taking Saccos. We are going to visually dissect Part II of these regulations, which lays out the exact chain of command, using this really cool whiteboard sketchnote style. You'll notice we are highlighting all the key takeaways in sharp dark teal and lime green, just to make sure the really crucial stuff pops. Let's get right into it. So let's kick things off with a question that might seem like a no-brainer, but it actually catches a lot of people off guard. When you look at any Sacco, who really holds the supreme authority? Now, if you immediately pictured the CEO sitting in the corner office, or maybe the powerful board of directors, well, you might be a bit surprised by what the regulations actually say. To get to the bottom of that, here is our roadmap for today. First up, we'll look at the power of the members. Second, we'll examine the board's duties and limits. Third, we'll step into the CEO's daily operations. And finally, we'll wrap up with the rules, penalties, and subsidiaries. All right, part one, the power of members, the supreme authority. What's really fascinating about the legal definition over in Regulation 60 is that supreme authority absolutely does not belong to the executives. It's actually vested jointly and severally in the members themselves during general meetings. Basically, they are the ultimate owners, holding the keys to the kingdom. But with that immense power comes a pretty massive responsibility. The members are legally tasked with making sure that only fit and proper individuals are elected as non-executive directors on the board and the supervisory committee. They literally have to follow the Constitution, the NARAN Act, the bylaws, and some very strict vetting policies to put the right people in charge. Moving right along to part two, board duties and limits, the heavy burden of oversight. It helps to think of the governance structure like a massive ship, divided perfectly between two working groups. The board of directors, well, they act as the steering wheel. They are responsible for oversight, things like exercising prudence, approving policies, and ensuring tight internal controls. Then, on the other side, you've got the CEO, who acts as the engine, executing the day-to-day operations. The regulations draw a very, very strict line right down the middle here. The board doesn't manage the daily business, they just oversee it. Okay, so what happens if the board gets it wrong? Look at the language in Regulation 6.1. Directors are jointly and severally liable for any loss occasioned by their actions that contradict the law, regulations, or member directions. Simply put, if a director acts recklessly or breaks the rules, they hold personal, severe financial liability. Being a director isn't just a symbolic title. It carries profound legal risk if things are mismanaged. To dodge that liability, the board has to stick to a strict set of core duties. They've got to ensure management maintains perfectly accurate financial records, safeguard the Sacco's assets, and set up robust internal controls and risk management frameworks. They're also heavily involved in audits. In fact, they have to present audited financial statements to the members no later than 4 months after the financial year ends. And, on top of that, they're responsible for recommending 3 potential external auditors to the annual general meeting. So how often do they actually meet to get all of this done? Well, the board is legally capped at a maximum of exactly 15 meetings per financial year. And there's a strict pacing rule too. No more than 2 months can lapse between the date of one meeting and the next. They have to stay consistently engaged, but without, over-meeting. Next up is a really crucial number 3. This pops up twice in a major way for directors. First, if a director misses 3 consecutive board meetings without permission or a reasonable cause, poof, they automatically lose their seat. Gone. Second, the board can create a maximum of 3 committees. Think like a credit and risk management committee to divide up the oversight work. Oh, and no board member can sit on more than 2 of those committees or chair more than 1. Which perfectly brings us to the number 0. This is such a fascinating rule specifically for the chairman. Want to guess how many board committees the chairman can sit on? Exactly 0. The regulations isolate the chairman entirely from committee membership to maintain an objective, high-level view. They can attend a committee meeting, sure, but only if they receive a specific written invitation from that committee. And here is perhaps the strictest rule of the whole bunch: absolutely no salaries. Regulation 62 is entirely absolute on this. A board member cannot receive a salary or any fixed or periodic payments for their services, period. They're only allowed to be reimbursed for necessary, lawful expenses. And honestly, even those exact reimbursement rates have to be explicitly approved by the supreme authority, the members, during a general meeting. Let's shift gears to part 3, the CEO and daily operations, the engine room. Before a CEO can even begin running the day-to-day operations, the actual process of getting them into the seat or firing them is strictly regulated by Regulation 64. Step 1. The board decides they want to appoint or remove a CEO, but they can't just snap their fingers and do it. Step 2 requires prior written approval from the authority for an appointment and a detailed prior notification to the authority for a removal. Step 3. Once the action is finally taken, the board has exactly 15 days to officially notify the authority. And the real kicker here? The authority holds so much power that they can literally step in and remove a CEO themselves if they need to protect the Sacco. Once safely in the chair, Regulation 65 defines the CEO's world. The CEO is strictly responsible to the board for implementing prescribed policies, hitting strategic targets, managing human resources, and ensuring every single person adheres to the established code of conduct and the Public Officer Ethics Act. They are the ultimate executor. But as we know, execution just isn't enough. The CEO has to prove it by closing the oversight loop. There's a massive set of reporting requirements the CEO must present back to the board. We can split these into 2 buckets. Financial reports, which cover monthly and quarterly budgets, actual income and deposit profiles, and risk reports. That risk side is absolutely critical. The CEO has to report on delinquent loans, any insider dealings, large risk exposures, and most importantly, any regulatory violations and the exact steps taken to fix them. After all, the board can't oversee what the CEO doesn't report. All right, final section, Part 4. Rules, penalties, and subsidiaries. Drawing the line. When it comes to your position, there's one cardinal rule you cannot break. Under Regulation 63, you can only hold the position of a director or a supervisory committee member in exactly one Sacco society. That's it. Absolutely no double-dipping allowed. You can't be a director in one Sacco and then sit on the supervisory committee of another. Your loyalty and your focus must be completely singular. So what happens if someone breaks the rules we talked about earlier? Like, say, taking an unauthorized salary? Well, the unlawful pay penalty under Regulation 62 is brutal. The authority will step in and demand a full, immediate refund of every single shilling taken. But they don't stop there. They attach interest at the prevailing central bank rate per month, running from the exact moment the money was received until it's fully paid back. Oh, and the cherry on top? The authority issues an order suspending that director or officer from service immediately, and there could be further enforcement actions against the entire Sacco. These penalties extend to general behavior too, to the tune of 100,000 shillings. Under Regulation 66, any officer of a Sacco society who willfully violates the approved code of conduct is liable to pay the authority a financial penalty of up to 100,000 shillings for every single incident. Break the code 3 times? Yeah, that could be a 300,000 shilling fine, plus whatever other supervisory actions the authority decides to hit you with. Finally, let's talk a bit about expansion. Regulation 67 dictates exactly how a Sacco can establish a subsidiary corporate body. It's really not as simple as just starting up a new company. You absolutely must have prior written approval from the authority. Furthermore, that subsidiary cannot be a public company. And, pulling from our earlier theme of keeping the chairman completely objective, the chairman of the Sacco is strictly prohibited from sitting on the board of that new subsidiary. The lines of governance just have to remain crystal clear. And I think that brilliantly illustrates the entire chain of commands. And really, the immense pressure placed on every single link in that chain, from the supreme authority of the members, up to the oversight of the board, and right down to the daily execution by the CEO. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. How ready is your organization for a regulatory compliance audit today? This concludes our explainer. For specialized consulting on these matters and to see how this roadmap fits your organization, please reach out directly at 010-719-089.